Many people are saying that MAGA is dead and they are announcing basically the demise of the movement. I think they're completely mistaken. And in this segment, I'm going to tell you who I think is behind it. And the answer is not just one side. There are several sides, but I will show you in a bit. Now, one thing to say is that I remember in the year after, during the first year of the Biden presidency, Biden 46, there were many people who were talking about Trump and they were saying that he has zero energy, there's zero way him coming back. And there was a sort of movement there of trashing Trump.
People pushing for Ron DeSantis instead.
Yes. And I will say in one case, I did think that DeSantis should definitely run. Right. Then I remember the same people were really enthusiastic with the MAG shot. They were saying, right, this is raw energy from Trump. The establishment is against him. He is my guy. He is going to be with it. So there are lots of fashions, sometimes pro, sometimes against Trump. And there are lots of people who are jumping on the bandwagon. I think that the best thing to do is to stand apart from that and don't get sucked into the trends and try to see things clearly. Now, let me tell you what I think about this, because it also happened during Operation Midnight Hammer. I remember, again, there were several people, many people from the sides and the podcasting industry who were saying that World War III is going to happen. And I was of the firm opinion that it wasn't going to happen.
You're in the nothing ever happens camp.
Not exactly, not always, but I do think that Chad Jack has some power in him.
He does.
The force is strong with him. Right. So I think essentially MAGA is not dead for the same reason that World War III didn't happen. And I will say that people have a tremendous problem reading X and how X maps onto real life. Right. And frequently what does well on X doesn't necessarily reflect what happens in real life. And what appears sometimes to be a movement on X isn't necessarily a grassroots movement. So I'll give you the long story short. What I thought when it came to people talking about Operation Midnight Hammer, such as Tucker Carlson, who said basically, don't let the propagandists lie to you. And he was one of the main voices who were saying that there is going to be a World War III and that Iran is much more powerful than Trump thought. What I think is essentially that a large part of their audience is not a US audience. Some of it is bots. Some of it is just Middle Easterners and people from whatever country Tucker happens to support at the time, or whose leadership happens to support. So I don't think that it's a safe thing to say, well, this got 40 million views, 100k likes, therefore there's a grassroots movement of 100k people in the US who voted for it, and there are many more, because not all of them are on X. Right, so let me just say a bit. I think that if you look at this right now, the line is MAGA is dead. And I will be asking several questions. In this segment, I will be just asking questions. And I will give you also some answer. And I will ask lots of questions about Israel as well, because this is where this is what many people are trying to make everything about. Right, but let me just say that I think that to a very large extent, this is just not organic. It's definitely not a massive movement in the US, a grassroots movement. I think it's not organic. So you see here, Dean Withers and Nick Fuentes and Joe Webben, Anonymous, all of them suddenly saying the same thing. Sorry, I just don't buy it. Right. Now, what's happening is that Trump isn't going to run for another time. He isn't going to be 48. Yes, he is trash talking in the same way that he was trash talking to Hillary Clinton when he was debating her, telling her, you'll be in jail. Yes, he was trash talking when he was saying that he was going to be 48, and everyone got emperor of mankind. Everyone thought again Trump was going to be that. No, he was flirting with that audience. But he's a politician. Just never forget that. Right, so people right now are saying Trump said America first, but that thing wasn't as clear as they thought it was. It wasn't as clear as... Yeah, it wasn't as clear as they thought it was. So now they're saying there's a battle with respect to how you understand America first, whether it's heavy isolationist, as it seems to me that the blue side on the America first right now is arguing for, or it's going to be heavily interventionist, as the neocons are trying to say, or it's going to be Jacksonian, which is what I think Trump is limited precision strikes. Neither isolationists nor George Bush Jr. type of interventionist, but targeted precision strikes, which I think is what Trump has governed as to this day, and this is how he has done so far. So now we have a particular movement, the movement that says MAGA is dead, and they're saying that now it's America first, and America first means something like America only, and they're trying to say that this is the new thing. Right. So I want to say also, I want to remember that Fuentes was someone who did say to people to not vote for Donald Trump. When Donald Trump won, he basically said, I can't believe we did it again.
I remember
He's
that.
trolling. I mean, it's safe to say he's a troll. He likes trolling.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
For people who are entering social media right now, yes, Fuentes to a very large degree is trolling.
Does it very well.
Yeah. Right. So I won't be talking about it. So about the previous thing. Right. So Trump now basically said that, yeah, he doesn't think that Carlson and Fuentes should be deplatformed. He linked it with a personal issue of loyalty. Again, he said he has been good to me. He has done so before to other politicians. I think also with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we saw how that ended up this weekend. So it doesn't mean that much, but he did take a public stand saying that he should be allowed to platform anyone he wants. And of course, he said afterwards that people also are allowed to make their mind. Some people are controversial, others aren't. He said with this gloating Trump
bravado,
the smug face that I'm not controversial, and
well,
do this.
The thing is, he's not anymore in the grand scheme of things. Like, he was controversial back in 2016, but we've moved on to more controversial characters these days.
Now Fuentes is thanking him. Right. Now I want to say this. If you actually think
no permanent enemies, right?
If you actually think that Trump is an enemy of your country, you don't thank him. Sorry, you don't.
I don't think he said he was an enemy of the country.
Well, I mean, if the whole... let's say that there's a segment of the audience online or in that movement, I don't know necessarily if Fuentes has said this,
right,
that is trying to say that Trump is entirely controlled by the Jews and and is not governing for U.S. interests, is governing entirely for Israeli interests. Right, so now what I want to do is ask some questions and also give you some answers and give you my view on why I take particular stances on these topics. So I'll start with these questions, such as, is there such a thing as a Jewish lobby? If yes, how unified is it? Is there disagreement within it or not? Even if there is unanimous agreement about some issues, is there unanimous agreement on every issue? And again, of course, people need to talk about specific issues there and do independent research on each one individually. Question number 2, does the Jewish lobby have power? I think the answer is yes. Question number 3, assuming it does, how powerful is it? Question number 4, to whatever degree it's powerful, does it use its power for good or bad ends? Or ends that are pro or against US interests or against the interests or pro-interests of any other country other than Israel? Question number 5, to whatever extent they have power, do they control Trump? What I want to say is that these are empirical questions. And to give you precise answers, I can't, because I haven't conducted the empirical research required to give you some answers. But I will tell you what I think is true in some of them at least. And I will tell you why. So right now, it seems to me it's obvious. On X, there's narrative warfare. There are narrative wars. Everyone is trying to co-opt movements. Not everyone. Many people are trying to co-opt movements. Fuentes before, when Trump won, he wanted to claim part of that victory. He said, yeah, we did it again. Now he may want to get some of the MAGA crowd saying, thank you, Mr. President, for that. It happens. He's not the only one. And sadly, it happens quite a lot. Mm-hmm. He is not more guilty of it than many other people. Mm-hmm. Right. But I do think he is guilty of it. Right. So what I want to say is that I think that lately there is a new trend that happens online, and it makes everything about Israel. And I will say that it seems to me that they are anti-Israel first. Every topic that they approach it in the line of their only criterion for judging policy in any country is, does it benefit or harm Israel? And that's the only thing that they're asking. Some people are doing this. And these people are online, they seem to be many, but I don't think that all of them are real persons, and let alone people in the US, because I frequently talk to people and they tell me that they don't meet these people except in very few events, political events, and even there, they're not the majority. Right. So everyone tells me that they don't represent any kind of grassroots movement. So what I want to say here is that I constantly see people attacking everyone for supporting views because they say that, well, you're not anti-Israel enough. You don't agree on my anti-Israel agenda 100%. You may disagree entirely with it. And they say, therefore, you're an enemy. Therefore, you're getting your 7K. And therefore, you are a Mossad agent. And I will say, I haven't tweeted anything about Israel. I just haven't.
No.
That's not what my account is for. I'm not a Middle Eastern commentator. The only thing I've said about the Middle East is that World War III was not going to happen. That was the only thing I said on Thread. So when I see these people calling me a Mossad agent and a mega Zioshil, I cannot help but think they're blowing things out of proportion. So most probably, I cannot help but think that most probably they blow entirely out of proportion their assumptions. Or they either do straightforwardly character assassination attempts and bot swarms and whatever and attacks, or they just view the world through assumptions that are wrong. And if they are true, they're not true to the extent that they think that they're true. Right. So I want to tell you right here, right now, who I think benefits from this flirting right now with that crowd. I think it's several sides. I'll give you a short answer and then I'll elaborate just a bit. I think it's the Democratic Party, number one, and then it's America's geopolitical enemies. Right. Why is it the Democratic Party that is profiting from it? Because they're going to lose the middle this way. Right. So I'm going to hesitate some predictions. I know that there's going to be massive backlash, particularly online, and I know that people are going to disagree with. So I'm going to give you some predictions, just like I told you that I don't think there's going to be World War III. I think that if this flirting continues and the next Republican candidate for the presidency is openly flirting with that crowd, I think the Republican Party is going to lose the elections. They may do already enough damage. I don't think they represent the majority. I don't think they can win elections with that, on that policy. I think they may be enough to lose some swing states in the midterms. But my prediction is that if the next Republican candidate, the Republican candidate for 48, is openly flirting with that crowd, they're going to lose the elections. So, and then let me just say why I think that America's key geopolitical enemies are profiting from this. The answer is very simple. If you look at what these persons are saying, and bots, you will see that what they're constantly saying, well, we need power of the principles, power. We want more and more and more power, and we are gonna get power amorally, and we're going to crush all our enemies. Right. Why are they saying this? Because whoever holds power in a realpolitik is able to dictate their terms to those without power. Mm-hmm. Right. So when they're heavily in favor of that completely isolationist agenda, essentially what they're doing is they want an America without allies. And yes, in this world with allies, you're more powerful. Maybe that's a hard pill for some to swallow, but that's true. Without allies, there's a power vacuum, and that power vacuum is not going to be empty. America's key geopolitical enemies are going to take advantage of it and are going to try to fill it. And in the global scale of geopolitical power, that kind of agenda is going to make America less powerful and its enemies more powerful, or its opponents. So when the same people are saying, we want power, 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 to dictate our terms to the opposition, and they're saying for their own nation to isolate and withdraw into the geopolitical field and leave a vast vacuum that is going to be filled by their enemies, that immediately screams that their enemy, that if we draw the inferences from their line of thinking, what they're going to do is, what they're saying is, we want more power for the enemies of the US to be able to dictate more and more of their terms to the rest of the world.
May I suggest an alternative viewpoint? So the idea of an Israel lobby was established very firmly by John Mersheimer and Stephen Walt in a book on the subject, which was attacked viciously. But they made a extremely compelling case, I think in the mid-2000s, where they went over this. And it was also something that was very strongly explored by Pat Buchanan, who ended up being right about the kinds of Middle Eastern interventions that we saw. And if you look at the interventions in the Middle East that have happened, they've not favored democracy or liberalism or anything of the sort. They've simply destroyed Israel's enemies, from Gaddafi in Libya to Saddam in Iraq to Assad in Syria. And the result was a disaster. On the geopolitical side, the main problem facing America today is that the policies of the United States against Iran and Russia in particular have pushed these natural resource giants into the arms of China, which means that geopolitically you end up with China dominating Eurasia, with all of the resources of Eurasia feeding the Chinese industrial machine, making it unstoppable. So the argument here isn't just let's favor America's enemies. The argument here is that if you want to confront China, separate it from its natural resource providers.
I didn't say that's the argument. I said that's the inference. That's what's implied there.
That's your inference.
No, I said that's what implied there.
Hold on. Whereas the alternative viewpoint, which says it doesn't really matter where Ukraine's border stands, because Russia has taken the territories that it's taken, and the precedent of right of conquest is a long-standing one until the UN came along with its silly ideas. It doesn't change anything where Ukraine's borders are, not from an American perspective. Maybe from a German perspective it does, maybe from a Polish perspective, but not from an American perspective. And if you reconcile with Russia and can tap into these natural resources, you've dealt a blow to China. Similarly, the issue with Iran fundamentally is Israel. That's it. There's no other issue geopolitically with Iran, because Iran is surrounded by Turkey and Pakistan. These are the two powers that are around it in the neighborhood. And these are Sunni powers that are rising, particularly Turkey. And Turkey's always been a threat to Europe, always will be. Therefore, if you strengthen Iran as opposed to weaken it, you have the Turks stuck in their own near abroad, working in Syria, working in Iraq, against Iranian interests, and therefore separating Iran from China. And the consequence of separating both Iran and Russia from China is more Western influence into Central Asia, which is another energy powerhouse. And if you stop Central Asia from directing all of its resources towards China, you weaken the Chinese. So it's not that these guys are all advocating, it's not that these guys are all advocating pure isolationism. The argument is for competent imperialism. And competent imperialism does not include uniting Russia and Iran with China. That's not competent. That's insane imperialism. That's
Right.
simply
So
insane.
I
Imperialism.
don't think that this is what Trump is doing. So what I'm going to say is,
That is
because
what,
we can
hold on.
constantly talk
That
about
is
what
what is
happens
happening.
behind closed doors.
Stelios,
What I
one
will
second.
say is that, and I'm happy to have a friendly bet with you. I'm saying that if they elect a presidential candidate for 48 who is openly flirting with that crowd, they're going to lose that election.
I would just say something on that, though, actually, as well, which is that I think you're right in that assessment. I think that 48 who ran on that platform would perhaps lose the election, but I do think we also have to be mindful of the fact that many of the people of that persuasion are of the younger crowd, and actually, particularly in America, many of the demographics that hold to a particular loyalty to Israel are of the elder generation.
Yes.
And so even though if it be the case that 48 may lose, that doesn't guarantee that that is always going to be the winning platform, because the ground is constantly evolving beneath.
Well, we can talk about 49 later. We have 7 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
49.
no, sure, but I'm just saying, but in terms of the long term, the overarching trajectory that things are going on, what you're seeing more and more in New York, if I may just quickly, with New York and Mamdani, of course, is a populist left. Now, I understand that he has Soros backing and everything, but nonetheless, aesthetically, a populist left. And on the right now, you're seeing this fracturing between the different factions of the right as well. And what you're seeing is, and this is not just America, but this is also in Europe as well, a growing dissatisfaction with the middle ground. And so it's not entirely the case that, yes, the populist left or the populist right can just win an absolute majority, as you're saying, and accrue power, but we are seeing the shrinking of the centre.
But the point is, no, I think we're not. I think that this is entirely an online phenomena that is mostly fake. So that's my point.
All right.
I can't prove it to you right now. You can't prove the same thing to me. So let us see.
Okay.
Just like we saw with World War III, right? And also with respect to the geopolitical point you said before, there are all sorts of ways we can talk about this. We could say that right now, because Israel and Turkey have massive problems, and Turkey is being flirted by the EU as a bulwark against Russia. Right now, this gives a great opportunity to Russia, for instance, to team up with Trump and stop and basically give Turkey to stop it, and instead of approaching China, approaching the US. So we can constantly talk about this. We can constantly talk about what happens behind closed doors. Let us, and because of the nature of it, and I will say I don't have an issue with people asking questions such as the ones I raised before. That's why I raised them, and I'm sure other people are asking them. And I don't think you've heard me many times saying that people shouldn't be asking these questions.
No, I've never heard
right?
you say that, of course. No.
Yes.
That's not the implication
So
at all.
I think that this is the nature of the argument and the conversation. I think that to a very large extent, this is just fake and
Maybe.
foreign oriented. We'll just see.
Maybe.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.